So hi, everybody. I think people are joining us. Now it's already 10 o'clock. So hi, good morning. We are really pleased to welcome you to our first Ferncast webinar. This morning, we will be addressing new developments in audio technologies. And we will discuss opportunities in hybrid streaming technologies, customizable software solution, web radio, cloud services, and more. Let me introduce our four speakers. So Tobias Dornbusch, product expert at Ferncast. Hauke Krüger, CTO and co-founder of Ferncast.
Hello.
Detlef Wiese, CEO and co-founder of Ferncast.
Morning.
And we are really pleased to have today a special guest, Martin Schmalohr, portfolio manager at GNL. Martin has a high expertise in audio and video streaming.
Hello, thank you.
So the webinar will last 45 minutes, and there will be time for questions at the end. So please use the chat to ask all your questions so we can handle them and answer all of them at the end. I would like to ask you also to stay mute for the audio quality of the webinar. And last things, stay with us until the end because you might win a special Ferncast gift. We will do a small gaming in the middle of the webinar. Then let me now give the floor to Detlef Wiese for the introduction.
Thanks, Virginie. Yeah, good morning, early morning, and good afternoon to all of you. We have a global number of participants from coming lots of parts of the world. So we're very impressed by you registering to our first webinar by Ferncast. It's really a premiere. You're part of a premiere. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, Ferncast is a very young company. It's a three-year young company being in the software development area for the broadcasting industry, doing software applications in streaming and podcasting, multiplexing and SIP communication. And so we are happy that we have actually also a growing footprint already in the marketplace, thanks to you. So today it's reach more radio listeners, and I think that you also as experts are aware that there's a toolkit existing, what you can do, personalization is possible, interactivity. I think your CDN is very important, listing is important, and also formats and protocols. That's something I think where we will also focus today with the speakers from different perspectives. So yeah, thanks to Virginie and the team for organizing it so well, successful in terms of preparation. Now we want to make it also successful during the webinar, and so I give it back to Virginie. Thanks.
Thanks, Detlef. I'm pleased now to turn to Martin Schmalohr, who is going to cover multimedia formats, application, and online radio distribution. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Virgin. So I try to share my screen. Okay, somebody different did it. Now it works. Just a few seconds, then we can start. Okay, yep, and then I hope you can see everything here.
Yep.
So, yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today. I was told to put a little bit emphasis on the audio rather than video, although I did 20 years of video now, but obviously I did also a lot of audio in my recent work at the IRT, and today for GNL audio comes back again, seems. So I will try to give you, yes, let's say I try to put the eyes on some of my slides with the eyes of an audio guy. But let's start first. No, can I get the next slide? Okay. With the agenda, looks quite a lot for 10 minutes. So, but don't worry, it's not too much slides. Just a few quick introduction on the multimedia transport, which is in fact one of my main working areas since all of the years over the audio and video codecs. And then we will have a look at hybrid applications, hybrid services. Especially I did a lot of for HbbTV. Obviously, I put, unfortunately, the even more interesting topic for today, the DAB hybrid radio in gray here, because on the one hand, we have not so much time, and on the other hand, unfortunately, it was not me taking part in these nice projects like H Radio. But nevertheless, it seems these things will come back again soon. And finally, I am very pleased to present you some insights of our CEO, Alexander Lishinsky, from the new online radio platform, which has been built at GNL. Okay, so let's start with the usual slide. Some of you may already be aware of regarding the multimedia transport mechanisms. Just to speak the same language, let's say. When it comes to multimedia transport, we have different mechanisms. Basically, we have the adaptive and the non-adaptive delivery of audio and video streams and data. And here, as we speak, with the focus of web radio, obviously, also the non-adaptive is still quite prominent, which is also being usable on HbbTV, for example, the so-called HTTP live streaming, which is in this case not the same like the Apple HTTP live streaming, because it requires a persistent connection rather than transporting segments from the server to the client. Yeah, but nevertheless, the adaptive delivery of audio video streams is, let's say, state of the art today. And we will also have one focus on this, because you might also want to transport audio with HTTP adaptive segmented streaming. So what are the different technologies which we have there? As you see there on the left below, I put a nasty stone here, gravestone here, because you can still do Microsoft Smooth Streaming, but it's not really still common, and Adobe Dynamics Streaming is vanished over the years as we introduced the HTML5 support of the browsers. But nevertheless, the Apple HTTP live streaming as well as the MPEG- streaming obviously is the main focus here. And I put the new kid on the block, let's say, the HESP streaming protocol brought to the table by the TO Player guys, which tells us to be able to have even less latency latency we can do with low latency Dash or low latency HLS. Just wanted to highlight that you have here different manifest types. So you have the text-based manifest type for Apple HLS and JSON-based for HESP, and the XML well-known media presentation description in Dash. Yes, when we look at the multimedia transport and have a look to the audio codecs, I just wanted to highlight here a few, let's say, typical combinations of different audio codecs regarding the sample rates and the typically recommended bit rates. This is based on a recommendation of the Fraunhofer IIS guys. They have a nice paper for this. what I want to mention here is especially what I put here in this table, so-called framing. You might be aware of that a number of audio samples is grouped in an audio frame when you do lossless or even lossy audio coding. And these number of frames of audio samples per frame, as you can see here, is not the same everywhere. Yeah, this could lead to a little bit of a problem when we need to segment these continuous audio streams. And there we need to have a focus and eye on when we want to put this inside of an HLS or dash or another stream, that we try to put an equal number of these AAC frames, for example, or Dolby frames inside of each segment. Obviously, you cannot put half an AAC frame in a segment. Yes, and when we come to the applications in a hybrid scenario, I tried, sorry for the nasty text here, shouldn't look like that. I tried to put an eye on the audio delivery in the different HBBTV flavors, the different HBBTV versions, because I also in former times did some testing on this with HBBTV 1.5, for example, for the Swiss broadcaster, because they wanted to know whether you can do radio, even adaptive radio, to HBBTV terminals. And unfortunately, it turned out that at that time, the most terminals required a video in addition to the audio. So you needed to put at least, let's say, about 500 kilobits for a video if you want to do visual radio, like they call it there. So, but then it's working. But you cannot very easily leave out the video completely and do an audio only service with Dash. So let's say from the lower versions of HBBTV up to 1.5, yeah, you would use rather Icecast or Shoutcast for providing web radio to these terminals. When it comes to the higher versions of HBBTV, you can do obviously more. And I want to highlight here a little bit a nasty thing. Oops, sorry. For regarding the dash descriptors, which are required within an within a DVB dash stream. It's mainly the role descriptor and the accessibility descriptor, which needs to be put inside of the manifest, and that should be followed by the codec or encoder manufacturer. And obviously, it's unfortunately sometimes it's not supported yet. And the new star, which is appearing, let's say, the HBBTV versions in the 2.0.3. So 2.0.1 was bringing also 4K video and HDR. 2.0.2 was bringing even high frame rate, and 2.0.3 is also bringing a lot of new other things. But I just wanted to highlight here that there in the NXE, there is explicitly covered also the delivery of radio services. So maybe a little bit more prominent than in the recent versions. And there is also one thing which might be interesting for you in terms of providing audio-only services, is the multi-stream synchronization feature, which is covered here, because there you need a reasonable low latency of the audio stream when you want to provide an alternate audio track in combination to the main broadcast TV program. So you need to have at least to follow some constraints in terms of latency that the terminal can synchronize these two. Yeah, and then finally, a service which I also supported in my recent work hybrid service, which has been done in the ARD, mainly at the RBB broadcaster in Berlin, also, which is called Internet Link Service, with some regular operation for even some years now, where you can receive live and backdash streams in addition to the main broadcast. So a really nice hybrid service. They managed to put the streams really inside of the service list on the terminal, so you can see when it's in brackets and called internet, then the user will be able to know that this is a stream and not a broadcast, although it should appear like just the same. And I also wanted to highlight this because you would also be able to put, for example, shoutcast radio in there, or accompanying backdash audio only streams could also be put in addition besides to the broadcast. And obviously the next step will be then to put this directly inside of the XML service list in a DVBI service, so that it could be received even without any broadcast. And now I am happy finally, because maybe my time is already wasting fast, to present some of the slides of Alexander regarding the new radio platform, which is called Rundfunk. So this is also the domain which we registered at GNL. As you may know, GNL got the mandate from the ARD, not only to provide the CDN for video, but also to provide the delivery of the shoutcast streaming. And as we have been learning before, this is requires persistent HTTP connection. And so this is not being maintained by a lot of CDNs. Obviously, it's not being provided by Akamai. So GNL decided to build their own radio platform. And here you see the aggregators in this graphic, which are currently being supported and used over this platform. We put own servers with a capacity of 400 gigabits per second, which could support about 3 million concurrent users, and with the SLA 24/7, obviously. And what is interesting for me is also that we do starting to maintain the metadata synchronization and together with the aggregators, which is very important, so that these radio URLs can be accessed. And as far as I know, we will also acquire the radio DNS service from the EBU and maintain this in future. And to come to an end, I just show you some of the very nice user interface screenshots here from my colleagues at GNL, which show how the platform can be used and configured here with the channel overview. And obviously you can use different encoders here, like Ferncast, and obviously also others, of course. We have a cooperation with the WDR, who is using Ferncast quite a lot for a lot of streams. I don't know, some 100 streams. And a special requirement also for this was the GDPR compliance, obviously. So it was needed to be ensured that user tracking is not possible. And this is also being followed by the platform. Finally, I think this is the last one with the red brackets, so that you don't know who was this streams. Yes, it supports obviously various codecs and bit rates, and obviously, as you see here, with the ingest primary and secondary for backup purposes, so that you can maintain stable delivery. It is also providing reporting, not only in this version, but here you can see is in this was for just one broadcaster about 30,000 concurrent listeners. And I think there is even some space at the machine. So if you want to provide shoutcast streams in future and need a CDN, you just can ask us. Okay. I hope I'm a little still somehow in time and didn't waste the time of others. Just a quick walkthrough, and I'm really happy to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin, for your presentation. There is already one question in the chat, but maybe we keep them and for the end, where we will answer all the questions. Now I will turn to Tobias Dornbusch, our product expert. He's going now to show you Extreme, our customizable software solution for any live audio application. Tobias?
Yeah, just a moment. Okay, you should now be seeing my screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. So from a fairly high-level overview of current developments and possibilities, we're moving on to a more user and operator level. And specifically, we're going to talk about customization, both on the user and the developer level, and how that can help the operators to make their lives easier, their workflows faster, and so on. For this, we're looking at our software GUI here for Extreme. This is on our demo server. And first, I would like to talk about the dashboard. The dashboard is the central control and monitoring hub that the operator can basically set up themselves. And this is one way how we make customizability possible on the user level. So what you're seeing here is an example of how a dashboard might look, but you'll see in a moment that this can be well, customized, adapted, however you like. So what I've prepared here is a fairly standard, I would say, a dashboard. So you have a connection overview, which is to say an overview of all the connections that have been set up on the system. So you get a basic overview, what's being done with them, you know, the encoder, what kind of output is being created, how long it has been running, that sort of thing. And below that, you find a level meter overview, a volume control, everything that you would expect, like basic control of, you know, ongoing calls and connections and so on. Somewhat random, but just showing the variety of possible things here. We have a zip dial widget, so you can do like a zip call on the fly, basically just hammer in the number and off you go. And here at the bottom, you have some system health and network status, you know, kind of stuff that you would expect in this sort of menu. However, as I had said, this is fully customizable. So when we start to create a new dashboard, like I just did, you have this overview of various widgets, as we call them. So this is these small components that make up a dashboard. And accordingly, you can just put something together however you like from these options. And then obviously unnamed right now because I didn't give it a name, but I could, of course, have a new dashboard with whatever functions you would like. Though I picked some that are not particularly configured. So I'm going to show something that is a bit more representative by itself. So like a DTMF widget, if you are using DTMF signals and so on, you can send them here via whichever connections you set up for that, and so on. And how this ties into customizability on the developer, on the vendor end, is that we're constantly adding new widgets, also often on customer requests. It's also very possible, because that's how we set up the software, to easily add new widgets or adapting existing widgets to specific use cases. And the goal is there always to make the workflow easier, of course, for the operators, and well, also faster, of course. So yeah, this is on the monitoring and control side. But aside from that, of course, probably the most important aspect of a software or a user interface that is meant for control of audio connections, audio transmissions, audio recording, and so on is, of course, the connections themselves, the calls, and so on. And our focus on customizability also carries through there, because we have come up with what we call the pipe concept. So the idea behind the pipe concept is that the entire connection from the source, so from the input to the sink, the output, is displayed as this row of what we call elements. So these are these circles that you see here. And you may be familiar with various other kinds of encoders, decoders, and so on, and similar systems where oftentimes the basic configuration is relatively simple, but as soon as you add any sort of special moduses and special options, things can get very complicated. You have to spend a lot of time going into submenus and so on. And we tried to, well, we wanted to avoid this. And the idea we came up with this pipe concept. So as you can see, besides the source and the sink here, you have a variety of other options that are immediately part of the pipe. So you know exactly what is happening to a specific call configuration, and can get a very quick overview of exactly what's going on the system. The pipe concept might become more clear if I actually show you how to create a pipe for a moment here. So this would be the create pipe menu accordingly. And as you can already see here, you have these what we like to call pools of elements sorted by groups. So you have your sources, the inputs, and so on. Audio processing is everything else. We're going to hear a bit more about this later, actually. Encoders, obviously the codec algorithms and so on, and the sinks are the outputs, the destinations, excuse me, as the case may be. So creating a new pipe could be as simple as saying, well, I have a classic audio input, maybe it's analog in like an audio interface or MADI or whatever. I want to encode it, let's say Opus, and I want to just create a regular RTP stream. That would be like the basic setup so far. But maybe I have want to use the system for maybe replacing other kinds of pieces of hardware. I want to do more things on the system. So you could be adding level meters, volume controls, as we saw earlier on the dashboard. Those would appear there then. You can do remixing of the channels. And as you can see, lots of other features, including audio delay, loudness control, which we hear about more later. And yeah, this way I have my pipe set up exactly how I need it and how I want it, especially, just so it works best for my use case. And the detailed configuration I can now do by simply clicking on the respective elements, and then I get the detailed setup. For instance, the channel mapping here for the audio input. Or the bitrate for the encoder, obviously, but also other. Just a moment. The Zoom interface here is in the way. Okay. Other expert level sort of adjustments that I could be making, like for instance for the Opus here, the in-band FEC and so on. All the options are available, but we make a significant effort into separating like the more basic stuff from advanced features. Once again, sort of feeding into this theme of customizability and getting exactly the experience you want out of it. And of course, then in the RTP, I could, set the target destination ports and so on and so on. And once again here, these are fully interchangeable. So you could use any sort of source with any kind of output, even if it's like a more esoteric use case, which is also, once again, helps with replacing unnecessary hardware because you need less adapters in a lot of cases. And once again, adding new inputs or outputs is also very possible for us on the development level. So that definitely helps in, well, simplifying things, of course. Right. This would be it for the creation of the pipes, but there's a few more other things to look at as far as making things work exactly as you need it, as you want it to be. So we have various filters. As you can imagine, the list of pipes can get very long, so you can accordingly slim it down via filters so you have exactly the view you want. There's a full text search that picks out specific pipes for you. Like in this case, I could even control it from here. Once again, that's a way to organize things how you need it. You can group pipes together. So currently you can see you can control them directly from here via this panel or from the dashboard if there's like if it's like in the connection overview, for example. But maybe you want to control all of them together. And for that, we have groups. So you can create a group that you just add individual pipes to. And as you can see here, you can now, or you could now, control and monitor these all at once. So this is an alternative view or alternative way to monitor multiple pipes besides, of course, the dashboard view that you saw earlier. And as well, you can set up templates for yourself. So you can set up a pipe that you create again and again, simply, or copy it rather. And of course, you can also return the pipes here to the general overview as I just did. And these are just various ways how obviously it's very useful from a general setup and configuration standpoint, but also very useful because, well, different users, different applications require different means of operating the system. And of course, they focus on different things as far as the monitoring and control goes. And in order to get all these various ways of doing audio transmission, audio streaming, audio recording under one umbrella, basically, that's why we focus so much on customizability in a lot of our software and our offerings, as you saw the widgets and how we can set up the pipes and so on. And yes, as I already mentioned, we're also always busy developing new features, of course. And for this purpose, we have also recently developed a new loudness control based on R128. And also other signal processing features that we're looking at right now. And in a moment, my colleague Hauke Krüger will tell you something about that.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Tobias, to hand over to me. My name is Hauke Krüger, and I'm one of the founders of Ferncast. And my role at Ferncast is CTO. So I'm responsible for the developments, and you have now seen what our products and what they look like. And now what I want to give you next is an introduction to what we do behind the scenes. So what are the future development which we currently work on. And therefore, I will share my small presentation. Here you go. Okay. So yes, I will give you some insights, but before I do this, I'll have the quiz for you. So yes, our quiz today is I will ask you a question, and then you can give the answer in the comment section here. So there will be looking for the answer to the question, and the question has to do with our location. We are located here in Aachen, which is in the western part of Germany. And we are very close to the Netherlands and Belgium. So people say that we are in the heart of Europe. And there are a lot of things you can see in Aachen. So if you pass by in Aachen, then we have a very nice Christmas market at the moment. And we have some very traditional nice locations where you could go. And one very famous location is called the Drielandenpunkt. And this is actually the point where Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium come together. And at the same time, this is the highest point in the Netherlands. So some people say that it's a Dutch mountain. And so now I give you the question now, and you can write an estimate, and then I talk about the innovative developments which we have. And then I will conclude this by giving you the right answer, and then we find out who was closest to the right answer. So now here's the question. So what is the distance between the Ferncast office and the Drielandenpunkt? And you have to give this value in meters. So this is the question. Now you can start to find out how far are we from this specific point. Okay, so this was the entry of the quiz. And now I come to the current developments. So Tobias already mentioned that we are working on loudness, and loudness is actually only one part. So we are working on sound processing, because we have seen that there's a lot of audio modifications required for the podcast and also for the live streaming. So we need to have to ensure that there's a constant level of audio, for example. And this is what we address by using the loudness control. And the loudness control has more than one component. So one component is a multiband compression. So we have some compressors in our signal processing chain, and you can define for which frequency area this actually on which frequency area this focuses on. And then we have a loudness adaptation module, and this is based on the R128 standard. So we can modify the loudness while signals are going through the signal processing. And we have already this part of this we have already in Extreme, but now we work on two different modes: the real-time mode, which is also part of Extreme, but since Extreme can also be used for podcast creations, we also add some offline processing opportunities. You always have more options to do loudness processing if you work on offline files. So this is also one of the developments we currently work on. And then the next new technology which we will integrate into Extreme is WebRTC. So WebRTC is what you typically use if you have a video conference. And this is very nice because it's all standardized, and you can have some chats and some video conferences very quickly with it. And Tobias did not mention this, but you can also listen into pipes in our Extreme solution. And we will integrate WebRTC to have a specific version of the listening into pipes, which has a lower delay than if you have HTTP listening in. So we will use WebRTC for this. And also we have seen that recently, if you have live reporters, the focus switches from zip phones or zip communication to WebRTC communication. So this is also one reason why we will integrate WebRTC also in the Extreme solutions. And then the last issue that we want to focus on is that we use WebRTC to interact with the cloud services, which we will introduce as Ferncast in the next time. And this brings me then to the next of the development issues which we have. So cloud services. We have seen that a lot of customers use our Extreme solutions based on a server, which they have somewhere in their location. But if you have a smaller customer, then they don't really need a full installation, and therefore we have the idea to provide Extreme as a cloud service. So you can have a small portion of an Extreme installation, and then have your radio integrated as a cloud service. And this is what we use the WebRTC for. You can stream from, for example, from your web browser, you can stream into the cloud service, and from the cloud service, this will then be deployed to the listeners of a radio program, for example. And also we need this as a monitoring. If you have a cloud service running somewhere, you want to have we want to monitor the audio signal, and therefore also we will integrate WebRTC to have a feedback that we can listen to live radio or to a file playback for the radio, and then have the opportunity to monitor the sound in the web browser. And then the last project which we currently work on, which I would like to talk about here, is a one-person radio show. So this is actually another version of the Extreme technology, which should then operate on all platforms. So, for example, a Windows laptop where you have an application running, but also, for example, a very small solution on an iPad. And this is it has a feature set which consists of mixing, streaming, encoding. We will also have conferencing, and we will also allow podcast creation. So if you have you're one person and you want to create your own radio show, then you can use this app to, for example, you play music, you play jingles, you have a microphone, you can talk, but you can also start some teleconferences or make a voice call to somebody you want to interview, and all this should operate in one solution. And we will also, of course, we will base this on WebRTC and zip connections to have live interviews. And this solution should be like you have one button, and then you can reconfigure this for music playback, and you have another button, you can configure this for an interview, and so on. So this will also be one of the products we will launch in the future. Okay, so this is about what we're currently working on behind the scenes. So if you're interested in additional information, you can just write me an email to this email address. And this concludes my small talk, but now we come to the conclusion of the quiz. So the question was, what is the distance between Ferncast and the Brillantenpunkt in meters? And well, this is actually the distance, but it's hard to read here now. So it's really exciting. So you see the value here, but you cannot read it yet. So the result is it's 2060 meters. And so hopefully somebody has made a good guess. Okay, so this concludes what I wanted to talk about. So I will hand it over now to Detlef.
Okay, thanks, Hauke. I'm sure that Virginie will say something about the winners and check the answers. And thanks for answering, and cool question also. So we have a few minutes left in the official part. So we want to finish in time at 10:45, but then the speakers will stay in order to answer more questions. Let me thank the participants and the speakers. I mean, that you all are here and you spent your time. And I think for us, it's very important as a development company to stay in touch, to listen to what you like, what you need, and actually, in order to make really progress in the broadcasting industry, to have an interactive and an iterative process of communication between all the participants, whether this is the operators, the technical guys, the program people, or us as developers. So, but maybe there's room, I think, for one question until 10:45, a brief one. I saw some question. I think maybe Martin would be interesting. Maybe also somebody else to answer from the speaker round. But there was something to check and calculate listener figures and behaviors. I mean, because you are close and working with a CDN plus company. So do you want to say something about this? Is that in your range in your scope of answering, or giving maybe some ideas on this?
Yes, of course. I mean, you have when it comes to the broadband delivery, right? Because the other question regards a little bit also to the broadcast delivery. When you have broadband delivery, you obviously can do client-side analytics on the one side, and you can do the server-side logs on the other hand, and you might want to comparing these two sources of data to provide insights about the usage. I have not yet such a deep view inside of the G&L radio platform, but obviously we are following the number of users, and each customer can, as you have been seeing in the screenshots, follow and log the number of users to the specific streams, and they provide, and to have the typical figures in a nice Grafana dashboard provided, how many data rate it consumes in the end, and where you have peaks maybe, and then you might want to even go further down on the ISP level if you want to track problems in a regional area. But when it comes to FM radio, like I've been seeing here, I mean, yeah, broadcast is broadcast.
I think, Martin, it would be great if we maybe move this to the time after,
yeah.
because we stay, and the ones who are interested, they can stay, so we won't go away. It's like physically staying in the room for a coffee, and we will be available. So I would maybe hand over to, thank you again to Virginie, maybe for for the final words and maybe the game result, if we have any.
Yeah, we got one, and a first one, Roland Chalet. So he was the first one to answer, and that was the right answer. So congratulations, because Hauke found a difficult question. So I will be in touch, Roland, to send you a nice Ferncast polo. So yes, I would like to thank everybody for your time and your attention. It was a pleasure to host this first Ferncast webinar. We stay, of course, at your disposal if you need, if you have questions, if you would like a demo or a personal call with us. And then I wish you a nice day. I put here the email address of Tobias, if you like to note it, and Tobias is always available for question or for demo, and you can also get a free trial from Extreme. So that was my last word. Do we still have some questions that left to?
Yeah, I think so. And in general, I mean, you can really contact us all personally. It's very easy. It's our initials and at ferncast.de. The same for me. Also is dw@ferncast.de for any direct questions, so we will be available. Yeah, there were other questions. I think also about the question from Younger Makalusa about the counting the listeners and calculate. It was also about behavior. I think that's probably an interesting aspect. I mean, as soon I think we have a direct connection to listeners, it's probably more, I would guess, that you are not just interested in maybe, that they are listened, but also to what they are listened and maybe counting data. So I think there are lots of means available if you use apps, and certain functions are provided where, of course, the user needs to give permission to and to allow this. Yeah, we had also another question, I think, where I interrupted Martin when you said counting listeners to FM or for FM radio. Maybe you want to say something on this?
Yes, no, the idea is there, I think, can only be that you might want to introduce a back channel via broadband. So this would involve the hybrid radio approach, could obviously also be used to count the listeners, or to even maybe track behavior if you want and if you're allowed to, because we had this issue we had, for example, with HBB-TV. There was, because we provided client-side analytics, which supports HBB-TV even on all the devices, and it has been sending back these beacons to the cloud. And there had been discussions if this could also be used to track the TV usage of users, even when they don't use explicitly broadband services via HBB-TV. Obviously, technical, it's possible, but yeah, you wouldn't be allowed until the user had signed in, opt-in for this. And this could be also.
Yeah, I think there are also other. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Okay,
fine.
Okay. So I think there are probably also other possibilities. I mean, there is, I know in some countries, watermarking in the audio signal, which is used to analyze which programs are listened to with some tools, so that there is also other ways giving feedback from the user. So probably if someone wants to contribute on this, then that's open. Watermarking. Then we had another question also, let me just see. One more to Martin, and actually I just see what we have. Yeah. Yeah, I think in the beginning of the possibility of interactive content, that was the first question. Are you aware of any major relevant activities in this area? Interactivity. Yeah, I think you addressed it a bit. You want to say one more thing?
Yeah, maybe just one or two sentences. Although I was not really in charge of the hybrid radio, it was Alexander Erk in my recent work. It seems that there are already a lot of technical possibilities. That's not the issue. There are libraries for smartphones and so on. There's a radio DNS service which combines the broadcast and the broadband, so provides the missing link. But the service providers as well as the end user manufacturers need to support these things. Yeah, and hope was the automotive industry, but yeah, there you at least there you have on a regular basis the possibility to switch between broadband and broadcast. So when the FM or the DAB reception goes to bad, it will switch to the shoutcast stream, for example, and vice versa. And they do this even without major glitches in terms of latency. So this is a very first, let's say, thing. And the other thing is visual radio, like the RBB is providing visual radio with slideshows and so on. Yeah, but the H Radio project demonstrated that you could do much more. You could even provide replay feature to lower the podcast out of the FM, let's say, to jump from FM to the podcast to the beginning of the show and these things. Yeah, but the question is the commercial interest.
Okay. Well, I may add also something, because we say how to reach more radio listeners. I was just recently part of an UNESCO roundtable also with global participants from all over the world, and there was also the topic about connectivity in certain amount of countries, which is sometimes quite hard. So I think it's also an internal aspect when we talk technical, that on one hand we have in lots of countries the situation that we go up and up with bitrate because of availability of bandwidth, but I think we need also to take care of the very low end, and it's good that there are also developments so that, well, of course everybody likes to transmit AA67 a linear, that's perfect, but to the end user, down and also up if the end user actually is a producer. It is probably important to also address the very low bitrate coding things like XHEAC with 8, 12, 16 kilobit, which is probably in the countries with very developed bandwidth access and capabilities not so addressed. But I learned again that this is very important to take care of. Those low bit rates, and for both, it's for the receiving side, but also if people want to produce, just to get it really out of town is a very, very important aspect. Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't think that there's any other question in the chat. So then for the final,
maybe we can just add something about the IBC is unfortunately cancelled, but we are planning to do a virtual event on the 6th of December, so we will send more information soon.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing which you add, and also for us this was the first webinar, and due to this huge number of registrations, I think that lots of the registered people will also use the replay. We plan also more from our side to come then in next year, probably a series, and yeah, stay tuned. And in between, any input from your side is highly appreciated. And yeah, thank the speakers, thank you participants, and yeah, thank the team. And from my side, warm goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
See you.
Have a nice day. Bye.